We now have a box of Kleenex in the gallery because people have, in many instances, a physical, visceral reaction.
We're part of a world tour, and we are very, very grateful to have been selected.
St. John's Bible is the exhibit called Illuminating the Word. It's 68 original folios of the project, the St. John's Bible, the first hand-illuminated, hand-calligraphied Bible commissioned by a Benedictine monastery in 500 years. The collection of pages covers the Old Testament and the New Testament and was developed and worked on by 25 artists, calligraphers, and artisans from around the world. The St. John's Abbey commissioned the Bible from the Queen's calligrapher, Donald Jackson, who put together a team of experts, artisans, craftspeople, to work on the project over a period of time to develop the artwork, the script, the information, and the tools needed to reproduce a medieval manuscript, but one designed in the 21st century for 21st century people.
It has been lots of work, a labor of love for many, many years. It actually started back in 2010 when one of my volunteers said, "You have got to get this exhibit of the St. John's Bible prints." And I couldn't imagine anything duller, but I decided, yeah, let's go ahead. It's been 4 years of committee work, starting with simply negotiating the contract, do a facilities check, make sure that we would be able to have the right lighting, the security that's needed, the docent help, all of those things. And that took time, as well as all the programming throughout the community that has been developed. That does not happen overnight.
So what they did was they scrape off that black and they mix it with two substances.
I started following the project and keeping up to date on it, and when I have had opportunity to talk about it or lecture on it or teach around it, I've jumped to that because this is the project that for me really makes a lot of those heritage crafts like calligraphy, like illumination, like cutting a quill, makes those crafts real and valid. Calligraphy comes from the Greek word beautiful writing, and it's not handwriting. If you look at my handwriting, it looks like a beetle crawled across the page and died. Calligraphy is the combination of thick and thin strokes, creating an interplay of dark and light, and delivering words or messages that we read as text. Illumination is the adding of gold in its simplest sense. So you'll see gold, 24 karat gold, is widely used throughout the St. John's Bible project to represent the divine. And that's the power, one of the powers of the St. John's Bible, is the pages are big. So people can gather around in community and talk and listen and say to one another, well, I see such and such, but I see such and such. So they can share and learn from one another. So it becomes a community sharing and learning device. And in our modern world of social media and firing off angry Twitter messages, this becomes part of almost a lost art of building community, of learning from one another, of letting our imaginations go wild. The text on a page took anywhere from 7 to 13 hours for a calligrapher. The illumination, there was a process on the front end of what was that illumination going to look like, and that was a collaboration between a committee and the artists. And that process could take months of going backwards and forwards and informing each other and coming up with a final image. And then putting pigments and gold to vellum could take a couple of hours, most cases a couple of days.
Here you have the text that he says that you shall bear a son and his name shall be Emmanuel.
The docents are trained tour guides. These are people who have volunteered their time and talent to get training from Ann Casey, to learn everything they can, to do research, and to ask a lot of questions, and to be hosts, really, so that the Bible is never left alone. It can never be unsecured. And so there is somebody present at all times that the building is open. And we have the opportunity to tell the visitors a little bit more about what is there to see in here? What's the big honkin' deal about this? If you just give a visitor a few hints, watch for this, watch for that, then they will go and experience each of the artworks themselves.
One of the missions behind the St. John's Bible was that of social justice. How do we recognize people that have traditionally been pushed to the margins of society? So whether it's women, refugees, children, one of the missions behind the Bible was recognizing the value those communities have placed historically and socially. So you'll find links to things that are unexpected, like the illumination on the family tree of Christ. If you read the biblical text, it's male-dominated. But in the St. John's Bible illumination, we have the men and the women referenced. The most common comment has been, "I'm coming back." The second most common comment has been, "I'm coming back and I'm bringing somebody else." And then people say things like, "How amazing is it that we did this in the 21st century?"
Funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008. And by the members of Prairie Public.